Okay, so I listened to this album. Somebody asked me if I would do my own little whatever review on this album. So I had to take notes. I rarely if ever take notes when I do any video. But I thought it was cool this person asked me to do this, so I just for fun wanted to see what it would be like, you know. And anyway, we'll just get straight to it because I ended up taking a good amount of notes. And so okay, the name of the band is called Sightseer Crew, I believe, and the name of the album is Let the Deadstock Breathe. Okay. And then I kind of gave a disclaimer, just for whatever. I just put out videos. I don't give a shit. But the disclaimer kind of explained where I'm coming from. If I do ever do any reviews, it's just I come from my own wacky perspective and then there's reasons based off of my background and history with music and playing in bands and blah 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 and this and that. So anyway, we'll get started. Just a little disclaimer, but so okay, so this is an all instrumental, and I just got all these random notes. So I'm just gonna kind of touch on what I wrote down, and you know, so I'm gonna be kind of all over the place. So the first kind of things, because I'm listening to them, I'm trying to think like, what is this comparable to? Okay, now there's probably a lot better like bands and stuff to reference as comparable to this. So I'm just gonna whatever. So the ones that just came out off the bat for me, what's kind of comparable to this album? Godspeed You Black Emperor, kind of, only a lot more groove and a lot less dark than Godspeed You Black Emperor. And then Grails, I'm trying to think of the name of that fucking album. It's like Diary of a Heroine or some shit. I don't know what, I can't remember. But it's Grails it's the same. Like Grails is similar to Godspeed You Black Emperor, only Grails is I think I like Grails better. And Grails does kind of go a little bit more into groove than Godspeed You Black Emperor. So those are a couple that I found. There's some comparisons to be had. You know, it's comparable to that, only it's more groove. And so I'm sure there are other bands that could be listed that are more comparable than Godspeed You Black Emperor and Grails, but I'm just kind of going to go with that as like a hot take kind of thing. And Weather Report. Weather Report. I'm like trying to remember the name. Anyways, Weather Report, you know. Weather Report, because Weather Report does kind of go more into groove than the dark aspect of it, like Godspeed You Black Emperor and Grails. So it's kind of like those are the kind of most comparable ones. And because I'm having trouble, I'm like reaching, trying to think what, because I know there's other shit that's comparable that maybe represent it better. But Radiohead, like some of the kind of like instrumental parts of Radiohead songs that kind of has that kind of shit to it, if you know what I'm saying. So now let's get into all these random wacky notes. Okay. Oh, Mahavishnu Orchestra. You know, it's got the Mahavishnu Orchestra kind of thing, only with less of the showcasing of instruments. It's more like this Sightseer Crew is more kind of it showcases more of composition, music composition, than it does showcase players. Like the Mahavishnu Orchestra kind of showcases that violinist guy, that virtuoso violinist guy, and a lot of them players in Mahavishnu Orchestra are kind of really, you know, what do you call that? Virtuoso players. which, you know, I mean, virtuoso shit can get overkill. So I really appreciate kind of where I do have a good appreciation for showcasing song composition and musical composition over showcasing, you know, some bass player that shreds like Jaco Pastorius or something. But I do like that shit too, you know. It's just got to be done right, and it can be overdone and stuff. So this is okay. So let me just go over these notes here. What do I got? Okay, and then I'll just Oh, the bass presence. I really like the bass presence because that's ballsy. When the bass is that present, that means that motherfucker better know what he's doing, and this guy does. Like the guy, very tasteful. Whoever's playing the bass. And is really good at restraining and using subtlety to you know, like that shit is not easy. You know, it's a lot of times it's easier to play complicated shit than it is to just keep it simple and fucking and tasteful and tactful. And so the bass is like killing it. Like it's hard for me to play that kind of style. Like you get me in a project like that, and I'm gonna start wanting to slap and pull, and you know, and stuff. And restraint can be a very difficult thing, you know. But as far as I've done projects like this, and they're really fun. They also require a lot, you know. And so, but this is something that I would love to play in a project like this, and also. You know, I've been to the different kinds of music festivals I've been to throughout the years. I remember I went to like 9 Sightseer music festivals in a row. And when there would be bands like this that would play, and I fucking loved, you know, I love just being out in the audience and just fucking like dancing and shit. Like, and because you could really get into this kind of stuff. Like, it's like, whoa, I love this kind of shit, right? So anyway, yeah, the bass presence was impressive to me because it ain't easy to play that kind of shit, you know. And then I like the dissonance. There's a good amount of dissonance. I mean, tastefully, I kind of prefer it a little more dark, but that's okay, whatever. And intertwined with the heavy groove, like the dark dissonance intertwined with really like tasteful grooves and stuff, and they didn't go overboard with the dark. Dissonance and shit. So yeah. And I put fun to see live. That kind of shit is always fun to see live, you know, and fun to play. I love, you know, I would love to have opportunities to play in projects like this, but it would require on my part, you know, stepping up my level of music competency and restraint and even music theory and shit, you know, obviously. And that shit ain't easy to do, you know. So I respect this kind of shit because this is, you know, this is music, you know. This is not just some cookie cutter sellout fucking bullshit, right? And the psychedelic, it's got a lot of I noticed there's some, you know, like Grateful Dead Grateful Dead are known for space. Where almost every fucking Grateful Dead show, there's like 30 minutes where they just do what is called space, where they just noodle around I noticed elements of space in this, and it's psychedelic, but it's also it's you know, it's got elements of psychedelic shit in it, which is cool. It's a lot of psychedelic influence in it for sure. Bass, let's see, yeah, I already talked about the bass lines are really tasteful. And restrained, which is fucking cool. Healthy, wholesome psych. Okay, healthy, wholesome psych. Like this is healthy shit. Look, so like I don't do drugs. But I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their life, whatever. And I've done a lot of drugs in the past, whatever. My point with the healthy, wholesome psych is this is shit like. If a person wants to get stoned and just trip out on music and just zone out to some trippy music, this is healthy shit. This is healthy, wholesome shit that is not going to fucking poison your fucking mind, right? Because these are real musicians, real musicianship, you know, overall good musical compositions, and all, like, so this is different than if I were to like be stoned or take some kind of drugs and listen to infected mushroom or something. And you know, no disrespect if people that like infected mushroom. I'm talking about that whole genre, and I'm not a big fan. The genre I don't like because it's based in trends. It's trying to capitalize on the DMT trend and the ayahuasca trend and the frog ass trend and all this stupid shit. And so it's poison in that sense. It's just sell out fucking cookie cutter crap garbage that's trying to reach throw a wide net and to make money. Boom, boom, boom. But something like this is thoughtful, wholesome. This is real shit. This is real shit, you know? And these people, I guarantee you, the musicians in this band, their musicianship far exceeds that of Infected Mushroom, in my opinion. I have not listened to a lot of Infected Mushroom, and so I might be more referencing the genre that Infected Mushroom is in, but it's kind of a sellout genre where they're just trying to appeal to you know, your average typical DMT head and shit. And it's just a big fucking gay trend, the whole DMT thing. It's a trend. I mean, you know, and trends are always shit, you know. Whereas, so this stands apart from that, and as far as the music genre itself, that mushroom head, DMT head trend of music genre, I can guarantee you, these guys' level of musicianship and music composition exceeds that of your typical band in that genre, in that DMT head genre and shit. So if you're gonna listen to something, this is healthy, wholesome, you know, shit. And because these are intelligent people that they're very thoughtful in their composition of what they're doing with their, and there's a lot of thought and intent going into what they're doing, right? As opposed to let's just spew out all this shit to get all these DMT heads to buy our music, kind of thing, right? So, anyways, let's see. Let me finish up my notes here. Okay. So, oh yeah, I've seen people and like try to pull this kind of style off, and they can't. You know, it's you know. So this is like one of those where they're pulling it off. They can pull this off. Where I don't know if you've experienced that yourself, or you see bands that try to pull this shit off, and it's just you can tell they're just fake. They're just kind of wannabes, you know. And whereas this is the real deal kind of thing, you know. And I put down ambient aesthetic, where it's just like compositions that are, you know, with that like more ambiance and ambiance type aesthetic, as opposed to kind of more like predominant in your face songs and stuff. So and I wrote, this kind of shit is not easy to do. Like these kinds of like that would be, you know, those kinds of projects are not easy to play in. And you can tell they put a lot of fucking thought and intellect. This is cerebral shit, or, you know, it's not just like whatever. It's very cerebral and all that. So I have a lot of respect for that kind of stuff. And I like the grooves. It's cool shit for sure. It definitely deserves respect. Okay. And yeah, like the style requires a higher level of music competency, you know. It may not sound like it, and that's what's cool. I like shit that's subtle, where it's unless you understand music and music competency to a certain degree, you don't really know that this kind of shit is not easy to do, you know, and stuff. So yeah, so I definitely respect that style, and I enjoy it. I enjoyed listening to it. And it reminds me of like High Sierra. I already talked about High Sierra Music Festival. Like I've experienced bands like this, and I played in some projects, but it requires a lot of discipline. And so the projects that I was in, like that were similar to this, kind of just didn't really, you know, people weren't committed enough. It requires a lot of commitment to do a project like that. And so I have done projects similar to that were way more insane though, as far as the level of avant-garde was like fucking maddening, you know. And we were highly committed, and we were but it's different. So anyway, yeah, jazz rock fusion, obviously. And then Jaco Pastorius, it kind of has that in a sense, even though it's a lot more subtle, which again, subtle is hard. It's harder a lot of times to play subtle, restrained, simple bass lines and other instrument, kind of whatever, than it is to play complicated shit. And then I listen to Mike Gordon, because Mike Gordon is very good. He's the bass player for Fish. Whatever you think about Fish, I have my thoughts on, I have my favorite albums, and then I have albums I've never even listened to and really am not interested in listening to. But Mike Gordon is is one of the masters of he's a fucking really good bass player, but he's got so much restraint and he doesn't showcase it. And when he does showcase it, it's so subtle that when you do catch on and hear it, it makes it even that much more badass, because you're like, fuck. I mean, this guy is fucking, you can tell he's super good, and he's intentionally refraining and restraining and being really tasteful and intent in his licks and stuff. And you're just like, fuck, man, how the fuck do you do that, right? So I have a mad respect for bass players like that. And this bass player has got a lot of that shit going on. So being a bass player, I'm like, fuck yeah, man. And then you can tell these guys know how to break the rules of music. So they have a level of jazz competency, which I'm like not, I mean, I could if I applied myself, but yeah, but they do it tactfully. That, like, the rule breaking aspect of what they're doing, they do it really subtly and tactfully. So it's just kind of like it's very interesting the way they do it. And then I kind of did some more notes on the modern psych scene without compromising the integrity. So they're going into the psych element without compromising their integrity. So they're not fucking selling out. It reminds me of Thelonious Monk quote, where Thelonious Monk says, "Don't play what the people want. Play what you want and let the people catch on." This band kind of has more of that approach, where they're not fucking playing what people want. They're making the people listen to them and catch on to what they're doing, So it's cool. And then I already talked about that. Definitely, it's intelligent. Like, it requires a level of fucking musical intelligence, what they're doing, and more breaking the rules. And so I was going to go into, the idea of breaking the rules of music. Maybe I will, because this is what kind of makes them, where it's good. It's actually good, because you'll have all these bands and all that are like Rebel Without a Cause bands, where they're trying to break the rules and they don't even know how to break the rules. This is what has always interested me about jazz, which this has a jazz fusion to it. It's a cerebral fucking music. And what's always interested me about jazz is that jazz intentionally breaks the rules of music. And you would think, well, that can't be hard to do, break the rules of music. I'll just pick up a guitar and just start playing random shit, and that's breaking the rules. But that's not. That's not. And you can tell the difference between someone who doesn't know how to break the rules and is trying to, and someone who knows the rules of music, therefore knows exactly how to break them. The rule of jazz is you have to understand and know the rules of music in order to break them. And so when listening to this, you can tell these guys know the rules of music, and so therefore they know what they're doing when they're breaking the rules. And so many people and bands and stuff, including myself, don't know how to break the rules. But see, the thing is I know that I don't know, so I don't really necessarily try. But you got a lot of people that try, and it shows their level of incompetency when they're trying to break the rules of music. You can see by them doing so, you can tell they don't even know the rules, because it's like, come on, anybody can do that shit, right? Anyways, so yeah, and then definite. They're true to the code. They're true to the code of integrity. These motherfuckers have integrity versus somebody playing to the masses, you know. And again, I'm going to reference Infected Mushroom. They're playing to the masses. They're not true to a code of integrity. And even if I believe I'm right, but even if Mushroom, Infected Mushroom, it doesn't apply, which we'll see. I'll have to look into it. Based off what I know, I would say, yeah. But the genre, that genre, Infected Mushroom genre, that genre, the majority of them, they're not true to a code of integrity. They don't have integrity. They're just trying to play that particular trend of the genre to reach as many, to be the next big Infected Mushroom or whatever. There's a difference between that and having a code of integrity, and these guys have a code of integrity. This is like you can tell that, you know. And so we'll end it with the reiterate the Thelonious Monk, the Thelonious Monk code, which is what these guys are kind of more true to and more in the direction of, which is don't play what people want, fuck what people want, play what you want to play and let them catch on. Even if it takes 10, 20, 30 years. Fuck what people want. It's what you want. Play what you want. And these guys, you can tell by listening, they have a sense of that code of integrity, where they're not trying to play to some trend or whatever. They're just doing what they enjoy and what they want, and then letting people catch on. So that's my take on that.